Unmeasured is not a traditional tutorial. It's more like a micro course in versatility. This is meant to be a confidence builder and idea booster. This is shooting from the hip baking at its finest. If fast-paced videos that get directly to the point are what you're after, then you best keep on scrolling. However, if you want insight, tips, and whimsical storytelling from Amanda, the owner of Do What Desserts, a food truck and bakery with decades of experience, then you're in the right place.
Hello! So today we're going to be making some sesame and pistachio cookies. We will start off by mixing the dry ingredients together. So we're going to do almost 3 cups of flour, just plain all-purpose flour. I didn't quite get those full, so we will add a little bit more. Baking powder, about a tablespoon of baking powder. I still get baking powder and baking soda like every time. I'm like, is the powder in the box or the container? So, all right, baking powder. And then some salt. I like to use sea salt. This is the salt that I keep on the oven. I always keep an open container of salt and pepper on the top of the oven so I can just kind of grab it, pinch it, and throw it in whatever I'm cooking. There we go. And some yeast. I'm going to do almost a tablespoon of yeast. I keep the yeast in the freezer. It keeps it fresh. Actually, I'm going to put just a tiny bit more. Okay, there we go. All right, and we will stir it up. Okay, now we're going to add some spices to it. I'm going to add some cardamom. It's my favorite. You can add whatever spices you like, obviously. So I'm going to do some of that, maybe a little bit more. And then a little bit of little cinnamon, not much, because I don't want to kill the cardamom flavor. Okay, that's good. And then as far as spice goes, I think I'm going to add a little bit of almond extract, but since that's a liquid, I'll add it in this bowl as we're doing the wet ingredients. So, okay, stir that together and set it to the side. There we go. We will do a cup, which is 2 sticks of regular butter. All right, so what I'm going to talk about today is both of my children play volleyball, and my son's volleyball new season started yesterday. And I coach for him, and I'm going to just kind of vent a little bit about being a volunteer coach and what it is to be a volunteer coach and the parents' part in that. Okay, so we're going to beat the butter with some sugar. This recipe doesn't call for a lot of sugar. It's not real sweet. About a 1/2 cup of sugar. That's about good. Okay. And we're just going to beat it about 2 to 3 minutes until it's nice and fluffy and creamy, and the color will get a lot lighter. I'd say about halfway done, I'm going to go ahead and add some vanilla extract in. Well, I've got an emergency on my hands because I cannot find my almond extract. It is not where all my extract is. So, because this dough has to rest an hour before I bake it, and it is almost 2:30 and I have a 3:45 movie, I will be skipping the almond extract. But in its place, I think I'll add a little rum extract and continue beating. Okay, I'm going to add the dry ingredients a little at a time. Maybe about 1/3 at a time. We don't want to over mix it. We just want to get It's so it's not dry. It's going to be a crumbly consistency for sure. It'll be dough. If you'll notice, instead of eggs, we used yeast. So because we don't have eggs in here, it's not going to be very moist or sticky. All right, last little bit. All right, so this looks really dry, but hopefully when I squeeze it together with my hands, it'll stick. If not, I'm gonna have to add a little bit of something in there, which would probably be butter or a little drop of shortening or something. Okay, so that's good. So we'll just kind of knead it together and form a large dough ball. All right, so my daughter Marilla started playing volleyball first. I never ever coached. I never volunteered. She played in a city league. And then when my son wanted to play, the city league didn't have any boy availability. So he started in like an I-9 league. So I started coaching his team for I-9. And then she started doing I-9 as well. So she was doing city and I-9. So I started coaching her for I-9. Everything fine and dandy. Parents not very engaged, but appreciative. I did the best I could. I never myself played volleyball. The only experience I had was watching my daughter play. So, you know, I did the coaching training and the background check, and I really went above and beyond to watch YouTube videos on how to run drills and all that kind of stuff. So I felt like I went above and beyond, considering some other coaches don't do extra practices and all that kind of good stuff. So I was feeling pretty good. Then the director of the city league caught wind that I was coaching I-9, and he reached out to me and said that Morella's team needed a coach for the city league. Nobody else had stepped up to volunteer. Again, these are all volunteer coaches. Parents, no experience, and asked if I would coach that. Sure, fine, no problem, whatever. So you pick the team in that league by doing a draft. So all the coaches went to draft day and the players did a serve and, you know, 4 or 5 other things so we could get an idea of what their skill level was. And then we went back and drafted them. So the level was about even on all the teams. All right, so this is kind of still crumbly, but we're gonna let it rest for an hour. Okay, cover it in plastic wrap. In this case, I'm gonna just use one of these covers. While the dough is resting, I'm going to get the pistachios, sesame, and the honey ready to go. So first we'll pour some sesame seeds into a bowl. You can do a plate too, but I do a bowl. That way it keeps them together because we're just going to basically dip the cookies in there. Some pistachios, some chopped. So I'll go ahead and chop them up while I'm talking. Okay, so keep in mind, this league, no professional coaches, just volunteer parents. Anybody can play as long as they pay their money. It's a rec league. It's supposed to be for fun. Now, I'm as competitive as the next person. I like to win. So obviously, you know, when I'm coaching the team, I'm like, okay, do this, do that, because we want to win. I call timeout. I do everything I can to try to help. So this team started off okay. We did a lot of practices. We did extra practices. The kids were bonding really well, which is super important in any team sport. But I think especially in volleyball, because they need to communicate with each other, try to help each other get the ball over the net, all that kind of stuff. So it's super important that everybody's getting along and everybody's on the same page. We start playing the games, going well, we start winning. And then all of a sudden, one kid's mother starts from the bleachers trying to coach during the game, yelling out, watch for the ball, over, out, like all this stuff, and super loud. So it's distracting to me and it's distracting to the team because that's what I'm doing. So they've got me saying one thing and they can't hear me, and then they've got this obnoxious mother. Okay, so that's bad enough. Then another player's grandmother starts coming to the games, and she's even more obnoxious than this mother. And the two of them together are just crazy town, like so loud and just coaching from the bleachers. And I literally am having to go over there during the games and tell them, hey, can you please keep it down? Number one, I can't hear myself think. And number two, it's distracting to the kids. Okay, meantime, every time I get a new team, I start a group text, and that way I can, who's bringing snacks, and, the game is at this time, at this location, all that kind of stuff. So I've got the group text going. So I say on the group text, hey, please cut down on the coaching from the sidelines. Like, okay. So then these two women start to get obnoxious on the group text. Well, nobody, we've been playing long enough. Nobody should be letting the ball fall right in front of them. Okay, some of these kids have never played volleyball before. Do I find it frustrating that after a lot of practice and a lot of games, they're still letting the ball just drop in front of them? Yeah, it is frustrating. But am I going to be like a jerk about it? No, absolutely not. So they start saying, well, if your kid is one of the kids that lets the ball drop in front of them, they need to be playing in a park and not on a volleyball team. Okay, hold up. Again, rec league. So then those parents start like, you're taking this too seriously, like you can't be mean. Meanwhile, they are getting so mean that during games, they are making some of these kids cry. So I reach out to the director and I'm like, hey, just a heads up, this is what's going on. And he's like, that is crazy. This is ridiculous. Like, I'm going to talk to the parents. So he spoke with him and he's like, you can't do that. Like, you can't be mean. You can't be putting children down. This has got to stop. Well, did it stop? Of course it did not stop. And of course we started losing because these kids, the ones who had the parent and the grandparent who were being super obnoxious, were filling their head with, your team's not good, your coach is not good, this person and that person are terrible, and they're the reason why y'all are losing. Well, the reason why we started losing is because the team wasn't working as a team anymore. And I was doing the best I can, but these women were completely undermining me. It was terrible. So you had the parents fighting, you had the kids fighting, the kids started becoming mean to each other, making each other cry. The one lady whose daughter was on the team, she was not even that good. Like, the kid was not even that good, but she's like, oh, my daughter's the best on the team. My daughter's carrying the team. It was nasty. So like game before the last game, after the game was over, she like made a beeline to me and she said something nasty. And so I asked my husband to go get the director, who happened to be there. He was not normally there, but he wanted to keep an eye out for what was going on. And he went and got her. She was almost at her car. And he took us into his office to have a conversation, like to tell her she can't do this. Anyway, I would say long story short, but I think we're way past that part. It was ridiculous. And the example that these ladies were setting for their child and granddaughter was horrible. And it cost us a ton of wins because we basically lost every game after that, since it started to get really nasty. And the kids I don't think any of the kids had fun. It was just a nightmare. So I will not coach that city league again. And I will continue to coach the other I-9 teams as long as my kids want me to and as long as they need coaches. So I do the best I can, but seriously, people, like, calm down. Okay, this, and then this is going to be for Honey. which is gonna make the pistachios and the sesame stick. So we'll squeeze some honey into a bowl. And then before we dip them, we're gonna heat the honey up to kind of break it up, loosen it up a bit. Okay, the dough's gonna continue to rise and then we'll come back for the dipping. All right, looking at it, it looked too dry. So I'm just adding a couple eggs to make it wetter and stickier. Okay, cover it again, back to resting it goes. Okay, I'm gonna use a cookie scoop. So I have about the same size for all of them and just make some balls. Okay, so we're gonna take those, roll them around a bit. What I'm gonna do is kind of flatten these out a bit like this and put them back on. I'm gonna get a little flour to kind of keep my hands floured so it doesn't stick. All right, I'm just gonna put a little pile. Well, that was a big pile, but I'm gonna put a pile there. All right, I'm gonna keep flattening these out and then I'm gonna heat the butter up in the microwave for about 15-20 seconds just to get it loose. Okay, I've got the oven preheated to 350. I am not putting any sort of cooking spray down. I could use parchment or these silicone mats. I'm gonna use silicone mats. So we're gonna dip one side in the honey and then press it down into the pistachios and put it back. Now we're going to take a pasty brush. You can use a paintbrush, whatever, spoon if need be. Brush some honey on, and then you're just going to sprinkle some, sesame seeds. And then I'm going to bake it. We'll check it in like 20 minutes. They should be brown around the edges. Okay, in they go. Perfect, and perfect timing. I have 3 minutes to pack up the candy that I'm going to be sneaking into the movie theater and put it in my pocket. And I will make everything on time. These look absolutely delicious. Centers are not like really hard. They're still a little soft. They'll continue to cook a little as they cool down. The pistachios look toasted on the bottom. They look wonderful. I cannot wait to get home from the movie theater and eat these. All right, if there's anything you want me to make, put it in the comments. If you've got questions, put it in the comments. And I look forward to making another video soon.